The desert air hung heavy with the scent of dust and heat as the late afternoon sun cast fading gold across the endless dunes. Dr. Jonathan Crane stood motionless on the crest of a rocky ridge, the ancient glyphs etched into the stone beneath his fingertips, whispering secrets older than any living memory. Before him, the desert split into two paths, each promising both peril and hope. His breath came steady but measured. This was the crossroads fate had brought him to, a moment where everything hinged on the choices he was about to make. Around him, the remnants of his team gathered, their faces etched with exhaustion and the raw edge of fear. Leela Hassan's intense eyes flickered with a mix of worry and unwavering loyalty, while Dr. Marcus Finch adjusted his glasses, his usually skeptical demeanor softened by the gravity of their situation. They all knew what was at stake: the lost oasis, that shimmering mirage of immortality, shimmering just beyond reach, but cloaked in layers of myth and danger. Jonathan Lila began, her voice low but firm. "We can't afford to rush blindly. Moloch's mercenaries are closing in fast. Every moment counts, but so does caution." Jonathan nodded, the weight of leadership pressing down on his shoulders. "I know, but this isn't just about survival anymore. It's about what we do once we reach the oasis, if we even get that far." Marcus stepped forward, voice edged with his usual pragmatism. "We've seen the illusions, the traps. The oasis isn't just a place, it's a test, a crucible of sorts. Our decisions now carry consequences beyond our understanding." The team's murmurs fell silent as a distant, ragged shout echoed faintly on the wind. Moloch's presence was no longer a shadow but a looming threat, a predator circling with deadly intent. Jonathan's gaze hardened. He had chased this dream across the desert, driven by guilt and ambition, haunted by the ghosts of a failed expedition. Now, faced with the ultimate choice, he felt the full weight of his inner conflict. The sun dipped lower, the sky bleeding into hues of crimson and violet, casting long shadows that stretched like fingers across the sand. Jonathan turned back to the ancient map sprawled across a makeshift table, tracing the faded lines that marked the oasis's location. It was real, more real than he had dared hope, but vulnerable, ephemeral, and fiercely guarded by forces both natural and supernatural. "We can push forward," Jonathan said quietly, "and claim its power. Or we can protect its secret, keep it safe from those who would destroy it for greed." Lila's eyes searched his face, reading the turmoil beneath his calm exterior. "You're thinking of Malik." Jonathan exhaled deeply. "He's a man who would sell his soul for control. If he reaches the oasis, its power will be twisted, corrupted. I can't let that happen, not again." Marcus nodded slowly. "Then the question becomes, what are we willing to sacrifice? Our ambitions, our lives?" Outside, the wind began to rise, carrying with it the first whispers of an approaching storm. The desert seemed to hold its breath, the very air thick with portent. Jonathan's mind raced through the memories of fallen comrades, of past failures, and the faces of those who had believed in him. This was more than an expedition. This was redemption. Suddenly, a fierce sandstorm roared to life, the howling wind battering the rocky outcrop where the team had taken shelter. Dust and grit stung their eyes, the desert's fury mirroring the chaos raging within Jonathan. The storm's relentless assault forced them to cling together, each member a vital thread in the fragile tapestry of survival. In the dim, swirling haze, Jonathan's resolve crystallized. The oasis was not merely a prize, but a sacred trust. He would not let it fall into the hands of greed and corruption, even if it meant forsaking his deepest desire for immortality. When the storm finally subsided, the night sky stretched vast and clear, illuminated by the pale light of the desert moon. Jonathan stepped out into the quiet stillness, the cool night air a balm to his weary spirit. The dunes beneath him glistened like waves of silver, endless and eternal. He closed his eyes, feeling the desert's pulse beneath his feet, the ancient rhythms that had guided explorers and dreamers for centuries. This moment, beneath the desert moon, was a crossroads not just of geography but of soul. "We move at dawn," he said softly to himself, "and whatever comes, we face it together." As the moon climbed higher, casting its ethereal glow across the sands, Jonathan understood that the true journey was only just beginning. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but it was also illuminated by hope, sacrifice, and the possibility of redemption. And in the silence of the desert night, the boundary between myth and reality shimmered like a mirage, forever elusive, forever calling. The crossroads of fate had been reached. Now, the choice would define everything. The first light of dawn crept over the horizon, painting the dunes in soft hues of pink and gold. Jonathan gathered his team, their faces etched with a mixture of determination and fatigue. Leela's steady gaze met his, a silent question hanging between them. "We've come this far," Jonathan said, voice steady. "No matter what happens, we protect the oasis's secret. Our legacy isn't just survival, it's what we choose to leave behind." Marcus adjusted his pack, a rare smile breaking through his usual skepticism. "For once, I agree. Some legends are worth preserving rather than exploiting." As the team set out toward the shimmering horizon, the desert seemed to hold its breath, the endless chase nearing its pivotal moment. Behind them, the shadows of their pasts lingered, but ahead, the promise of a new dawn beckoned. Jonathan's heart beat with a fierce hope. The crossroads had not broken him. Instead, it had forged a new path, one defined by courage, sacrifice, and the enduring power of hope. And beneath the vast desert sky, the journey toward redemption marched onward, step by determined step. The desert sun hammered down with a merciless intensity, casting long, wavering shadows that danced like ghosts across the dunes. Dr. Jonathan Crane's boots sank deep into the hot sand with each weary step. A rhythmic thud swallowed by the vast silence that stretched endlessly around him. The air shimmered with heat, distorting the world into a wavering mirage that blurred the line between reality and illusion. Somewhere in that blurred horizon, the lost oasis waited, or so he hoped. He paused, breathing ragged and shallow, sweat soaking through the fabric of his shirt, stinging his eyes. Through the haze, a figure shimmered in the distant lush palms, swaying, water sparkling under the sun's fierce gaze. His heart surged. The oasis was real. It had to be. Desperation and hope warred within him as he staggered forward, each step a battle against the scorching desert and his own faltering resolve. But the desert was a cruel trickster. As Jonathan drew closer, the vivid tableau before him began to ripple and blur, palms wavering like flames in the wind, water turning to sand before his eyes. The birdsong faded into silence, replaced by the ominous whisper of the wind. His breath caught in his throat as the paradise dissolved into a cruel mirage, leaving only the barren desert stretching endlessly once more. He sank to his knees, the weight of exhaustion and despair crashing down upon him. Memories of past failures, the ghosts of companions lost to the desert's merciless grip, surged up, unbidden. Was this vision a promise or a punishment? Was the oasis ever truly there, or had it always been a phantom, a myth spun from the desert's shifting sands? A shadow fell across him. Jonathan looked up to see Lila Hassan and Dr. Marcus Finch approaching, concern etched deeply into their faces. Lila's hand steadied his shoulder, her touch warm and grounding. "Jonathan, you're losing yourself," she said softly but firmly. "This place plays tricks on the mind. You have to hold on." Marcus adjusted his glasses, eyes sharp behind the dusty lenses. "The desert's mirages are more than optical illusions. They prey on our deepest desires and fears. We must not let them break our will." Jonathan swallowed hard, struggling to shake the mirage's seductive hold. Around them, the shimmering heat distorted the landscape, threatening to swallow them whole in a world of illusions. But with Leela's steady presence and Marcus's rational voice anchoring him, he found a fragile foothold in reality. "Tell me what's real," he whispered, voice cracked but resolute. "The sand beneath your feet, the weight of your pack, our breaths, ragged and true," Leela replied. He closed his eyes briefly, drawing strength from the tangible sensations that tethered him to the moment. When he opened them again, the mirage had faded, leaving the desert's harsh truth in stark relief. But their respite was short-lived. Far across the dunes came the faint, sharp sound of shouting Moloch al-Sayed's voice, carrying the menace of a predator closing in. The enemy was nearer than they had feared. Jonathan rose to his full height, muscles aching, eyes blazing with renewed determination. The oasis was close now, its secret within reach, but time was slipping away like grains of sand through a clenched fist. The desert wind picked up, swirling sand around them in a chaotic dance. The shadows lengthened as the sun dipped toward the horizon, the sky painted in fiery hues of orange and crimson. The last mirage was behind them. Ahead, the final chase beckoned under the deepening desert moon. Jonathan took a deep breath, heart pounding not just from exertion but from the weight of what lay ahead. The line between myth and reality blurred beneath the desert moon, and only those who could see beyond illusion would survive. "We move now," he said, voice steady despite the storm of doubt swirling inside him. Leela nodded, her eyes fierce. Marcus gathered his notes, ready to face the unknown with reason as their shield. Together they stepped forward into the fading light, chasing a dream that might be their salvation or their undoing. The desert held its breath, watching, and the last mirage waited to be unveiled. The narrow passageway groaned beneath their careful footsteps as Dr. Jonathan Crane led his team deeper into the ancient temple's core. Flickering torchlight cast elongated shadows against walls etched with hieroglyphs and cryptic symbols, their meanings obscured by time but no less potent for their mystery. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of dust and ancient stone, carrying whispers of civilizations long vanished beneath the relentless desert sands. Jonathan's breath caught slightly as they entered a vast subterranean chamber, its vaulted ceiling disappearing into darkness above. The walls were alive with intricate murals, celestial bodies orbiting in endless cycles, intertwined serpents coiling around sun and moon, and figures caught in eternal dance between life and death. The artwork was unlike anything Jonathan had seen, transcending mere decoration to evoke a profound philosophy etched in pigment and stone. "Look at this," Leela whispered, her voice reverent as she knelt beside a stone pedestal carved with cryptic glyphs, gently brushing centuries of sand away. Her fingers traced the delicate lines that seemed to pulse faintly beneath her touch, as if the temple itself still breathed with ancient life. Marcus Finch adjusted his spectacles, peering closely at the inscriptions. These symbols, they speak of cycles, of time, not as a linear path, but as a spiral endings folding into beginnings. It challenges our fundamental understanding of history and mortality. Jonathan moved closer to a mural depicting human figures emerging from the earth and returning to it in a seamless loop. Their faces were serene, almost accepting, illuminated by a spectral glow that seemed to transcend the physical realm. It's as if they understood immortality not as endless life, but as part of a greater cycle, a legacy beyond the flesh. Leela's eyes met Jonathan's, the flickering torchlight reflecting the intensity of her gaze. Perhaps this oasis isn't about escaping death, but embracing what comes after. Marcus frowned, skepticism tightening his features. Or we're reading too much into faded paint. These could be ritualistic motifs with no bearing on reality. We must remain cautious. The tension in the chamber was palpable. A clash between scientific rigor and the mystical resonance that seemed to pulse from the temple walls. Yet beneath the debate, a shared sense of wonder bound them, a recognition that they stood on the precipice of revelation. As they ventured further, the temple's corridors twisted and turned, revealing chambers filled with artifacts and inscriptions that hinted at ancient knowledge lost to the ages. Jonathan's mind raced, piecing together fragments of a puzzle that challenged everything he believed. The oasis, it seemed, was not merely a physical place, but a locus of profound cosmic significance. Suddenly, Leela's hand paused over a panel depicting a figure offering a glowing orb to a celestial entity. This must represent the transfer of power or knowledge, she speculated, a pact between mortals and the divine. Jonathan nodded solemnly, and it may explain why the oasis vanishes at sunset, a protective veil woven by those who came before. Marcus's voice dropped to a whisper. If we disturb this balance, what then? The question hung in the stale air, heavy with consequence. Jonathan's resolve hardened. They had come too far to turn back now. But the temple demanded respect, its secrets guarded by riddles and shadows. As the team prepared to descend into the temple's deepest chamber, a distant rumble echoed faintly through the stone corridors. Sand shifted outside, the desert's eternal watch unyielding and indifferent. Jonathan glanced at Leela and Marcus, their faces etched with determination and uncertainty. Whatever awaits us below, he said, we face it together. The descent into darkness was not just a physical journey, but a passage into the unknown depths of time and soul, beneath the desert's unforgiving sun and the veil of ancient stone. The true nature of their quest awaited where myth and reality intertwined, and the price of immortality revealed itself in shadows and light. The chamber swallowed them whole, the air growing cooler, the silence deeper. In the heart of the temple, secrets older than memory beckoned, a final test of courage, wisdom, and the fragile thread that binds life to legacy. Jonathan's hand brushed against the cold stone wall, feeling the pulse of history beneath his fingertips. We are not just explorers, he murmured, but witnesses to a truth that could change everything. Outside, the desert wind whispered against the ancient stones, carrying promises and warnings. Underneath the desert moon, the endless chase for immortality was far from over. And with that, the shadows deepened, the temple's mysteries awaiting their unveiling. The desert stretched endlessly beneath the blazing sun, its unforgiving heat pressing down on Dr. Jonathan Crane like a physical weight. He stood atop a towering dune, the coarse sand shifting beneath his boots as waves of exhaustion rippled through his body. Sweat traced salty trails down his weathered face, stinging his eyes. But his gaze remained fixed on the horizon where the ancient temple ruins shimmered faintly through the heat haze. The promise of the lost oasis and its secret immortality was so close now, yet the cost was becoming painfully clear. Jonathan pressed his hand to his forehead, brushing away the sweat and dust as the searing wind whispered harsh truths around him. Every step forward carried the echoes of past failures, and the ghosts of comrades lost each memory, a burden heavier than the last. His obsession gnawed at the edges of his resolve, threatening to unravel the very foundation of the expedition. That evening, the campfire flickered beneath a sky strewn with stars, its warmth a fragile comfort against the cold desert night. The team gathered around, faces illuminated by the dancing flames, but the atmosphere was thick with unease. Leela Hassan's sharp eyes darted between Jonathan and Dr. Marcus Finch, her voice steady but laced with concern. "We can't keep pushing like this, John. It's not just the desert that's wearing us down. You're burning too bright, too fast." Marcus adjusted his glasses. The shadows of doubt etched deep into his features. "She's right. We're risking everything, not just physically, but as a team. If we don't find balance, this quest will destroy us before we even reach the oasis." Jonathan's jaw tightened, a flicker of frustration flashing in his eyes. "I know what's at stake. I've carried the weight of failure for too long. This isn't just about Mitts, about all of us. The secret of the oasis isn't just a legend. It's a chance to rewrite history, to redeem what's been lost." Leela's voice softened, but her words cut deep. "Redemption doesn't come without cost, John, and sometimes the price is more than we're willing to pay." The conversation lingered in the air, unresolved, as the desert night deepened. The fragile camaraderie, strained by ambition and fear, was a stark reminder. The pursuit of immortality demanded sacrifices that reached far beyond the physical. The following days tested their limits further. Inside the ancient temple, the air was thick with dust and the scent of aged stone. Every corridor was a labyrinth of danger. Intricate traps snapped shut with merciless precision. Jonathan's heart pounded as he narrowly evaded a collapsing ceiling, his limbs trembling from adrenaline and fatigue. Each close call was a cruel testament to the temple's guardians, ancient protectors of secrets not meant for the living. Outside, Malik al-Sayed pressed his mercenaries onward, the ruthless gleam in his scarred face reflecting the desert's harsh glare. His ambition was a dark mirror to Jonathan's own, but twisted by greed and a hunger for power that threatened to consume everything in its path. The distant clash of ideals and the ever-present threat of violence hung like a shadow over the sands. Back at camp, tensions flared as the team grappled with the harsh realities of their quest. Marcus's skepticism grew sharper, challenging Jonathan's every decision, while Leela's pragmatism sought to keep the fragile group together. The desert was not only a physical battleground, but a crucible for their spirits. Jonathan found himself at a crossroads, torn between the promise of eternal life and the tangible costs it demanded. The faces of lost friends haunted his dreams, whispering warnings he could no longer ignore. Was immortality worth the price of fractured bonds and broken bodies? As the sun beat down mercilessly, the answer remained elusive. Yet, despite the weight of sacrifice, Jonathan's resolve did not waver completely. Each scar, every strained conversation, and every narrow escape forged him anew. The desert was relentless, but so was he. With the oasis drawing nearer, the line between ambition and obsession blurred into a desperate hope that the ultimate prize justified the cost. The desert stretched infinitely beneath the vast dome of the sky, a sea of shifting gold and rust that seemed to breathe with the wind's whisper. Dr. Jonathan Crane stood atop a towering dune, the relentless breeze tugging at his worn jacket and carrying with it the faintest echoes of voices long silenced. It was as if the desert itself remembered those who had walked its unforgiving expanse before him. Comrades lost to the shifting sands and merciless elements, their stories melding with the eternal watch of the dunes. Jonathan closed his eyes, allowing the sound to wash over him. The whispers were fragile, elusive, sometimes a name, sometimes a laugh, sometimes the steady cadence of footsteps once shared in camaraderie and hope. These were the echoes in the wind, the ghosts of a past that refused to be forgotten. His breath caught in his throat as memories surged unbidden, the heat of the midday sun during that ill-fated expedition, the sudden fury of the sandstorm that had swallowed his friend's whole, and the helplessness that had gnawed at his soul ever since. The desert was both graveyard and guardian, a place where time folded upon itself and the boundary between life and legend blurred. Tonight, beneath the dipping sun's amber glow, Jonathan felt the weight of those memories, not as a burden, but as a mantle, a solemn pledge to carry their legacy forward. Descending the dune, he returned to the camp where flickering flames cut through the twilight shadows. Around the fire, Lila Hassan's sharp eyes caught his as she passed him a steaming cup of bitter tea, her presence a steadying force in the vast uncertainty. Marcus Finch adjusted his glasses, the light from the fire reflecting in the lenses as he leaned closer to share a story about ancient desert nomads who believed the wind carried the souls of their ancestors. The conversation was quiet but laden with meaning, each word weaving a tapestry of remembrance and resolve. "They say the desert listens," Marcus murmured, voice low. "Every grain of sand a witness, every breeze a messenger." Lila nodded, her face softened by the firelight. "And we are but passing whispers in its endless song." Jonathan felt a rare stillness settle over him, the tempest of ambition and guilt momentarily stilled by the profound connection to something greater, the unyielding desert and the stories etched into its bones. He reached out, tracing the weathered surface of an ancient stone tablet they had uncovered earlier that day, its inscriptions worn but unmistakably a testament to those who had sought the oasis long before. The carvings spoke of guardians and sacrifices, of life intertwined with death in a sacred dance beneath the desert moon. As stars began to pierce the velvet night, Jonathan found himself drawn away from the warmth of the fire to sit alone on the dune's edge. The moon hung low, casting pale light across the undulating sands and stretching long shadows that seemed to reach for the horizon. In the solitude, he wrestled with the duality of his quest, the fierce desire for discovery and the quiet, aching understanding that some treasures came at an unfathomable cost. What is immortality worth if the price is the loss of those we hold dear? He whispered to the wind, the words swallowed by the vastness. The desert answered with a sigh, a soft rustle that carried both sorrow and solace. Jonathan's fingers dug into the cool sand, grounding him in the moment. He realized that true immortality was not found in eternal life, but in the legacy one left behind, the stories preserved, the lessons shared, and the sacrifices honored. With renewed clarity, he stood and gazed once more at the horizon where the last light of dusk faded into night. The endless chase was far from over, but now he carried with him the voices of the past as guiding stars. The desert's eternal watch was no longer a haunting presence, but a solemn companion on his journey. As the wind whispered secrets beneath the desert moon, Jonathan Crane prepared to face whatever lay ahead, not as a man driven solely by ambition, but as one humbled by loss and strengthened by hope. And somewhere in the distance, beneath the vast sky and endless sands, the echoes in the wind carried a promise that no soul who braved the desert's heart was ever truly lost. The night deepened, but Jonathan's resolve burned brighter than ever, a solitary flame against the boundless dark, ready to illuminate the path forward.